Everyone knew black pilots would fail. He proved them wrong with 200 combat missions. The impossible assignment. The air in General Patton's office was thick with cigar smoke and unspoken skepticism. Colonel James Harrison, a man whose skin was the color of rich earth, and whose eyes held the unwavering intensity of a desert hawk, stood ramrod straight, his uniform immaculate. He was known as Lightning, not just for his speed in a P-51 Mustang, but for the electrifying precision of his tactical mind. Yet, in this room, among the brass-bound generals, he was just a black man, an anomaly, a gamble. Colonel Harrison, Patton began, his voice a gravelly rumble. "You've been selected for a unique command." The general paused, letting the weight of the word hang in the air. The 332nd Fighter Group, an integrated squadron, pilots of all colors, creeds, and backgrounds. Your mission: provide escort for our bombers deep into enemy territory. Your objective: ensure their safe return. Your challenge: prove that this experiment can work. Harrison's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Experiment. The word stung, a familiar echo of every hurdle he'd ever faced. He knew the whispers, the outright declarations. Black pilots lacked the intelligence, the courage, the discipline. They were a liability, a waste of resource. And now he was being handed a squadron that was not only predominantly black, but also included white pilots, Hispanic pilots, Asian pilots, a melting pot, designed, he suspected, to fail spectacularly and confirm every prejudice. It was a test, not just of his leadership, but of an entire race, an entire nation's conscience. He thought of the ancient stories, of Moses leading his people out of bondage, through a wilderness fraught with doubt and rebellion, towards a promised land they could barely imagine. Harrison felt a similar burden, a divine weight on his shoulders. He wasn't just leading pilots, he was leading a testament. "General, with all due respect," Harrison said, his voice calm, steady, "my pilots are American fighting men. Their skin color has no bearing on their ability to fly, fight, and win." Patton grunted, a puff of smoke escaping his lips. "That's what you're here to prove, Colonel. The stakes are higher than just a few bombers. This is about the future of our armed force. Fail, and you set back progress by decades. Succeed, well, success is a luxury we can barely afford to imagine." Harrison saluted, a crisp, definitive gesture. "Understood, sir." His first stop was the airfield in Italy, a dusty, sun-baked strip, where the roar of engines was a constant companion. The 332nd was a motley crew. He saw the wary glances, the subtle shifts in posture, the unspoken questions in their eyes. White pilots, some from the deep south, looked at him with open suspicion. Black pilots, hardened by years of segregation and fighting for the right to fight, looked at him with a mixture of hope and cynicism. His second-in-command, Captain Samuel "Ghost" Freeman, met him at the operations tent. Ghost was a man of few words, his face etched with the quiet wisdom of someone who had seen too much. He was Harrison's shadow, his confidant, his rock. "Colonel," Ghost said, a slight nod of his head, "they're a handful. Some of the white boys aren't too keen on taking orders from a—" "Well, you know," Harrison nodded. "I know, Ghost, but we're not here to make friends, we're here to win a war, and we're here to bring every single one of them home." He walked among his men, observing, assessing. He saw Corporal Marcus "Eagle Eye" Williams, a young black pilot barely out of his teens, tinkering with the engine of his P. Williams had a reputation for being a natural in the cockpit, but also for a fiery temper, a consequence of years of racial slight. Harrison also noticed Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the squadron's radio operator and intelligence officer, poring over maps, her brow furrowed in concentration. She was sharp, meticulous, and often overlooked in a world dominated by men. Harrison called for an assembly. The pilots gathered, a sea of olive-drab uniforms under the scorching Italian sun. He stood before them not on a podium but on the wing of a P-51, making himself one of them. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying across the tarmac, "and Lieutenant Chen, you are the 332nd Fighter Group. You are the best this nation has to offer, and you are about to embark on a journey unlike any other. We will fly deeper, fight harder and protect our bombers with a ferocity the enemy has never seen. He looked each man in the eye, letting his gaze linger. Some of you may doubt yourself. Some of you may doubt the man next to you. Some of you may even doubt me. But let me tell you this, in the air, there is no black or white, no rich or poor, no north or south. There is only pilot and wingman, friend and foe. There is only the mission. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are here to do a job, a vital job, and we will do it together. We will train harder than any squadron before us. We will fly smarter, and we will never ever leave a man behind. Our success will not just be measured in enemy planes shot down, but in the bombers we bring home, and the lives we save. A ripple went through the crowd. Some faces remained skeptical, but others showed a flicker of understanding, a spark of resolve. Harrison knew it wouldn't be easy. The wilderness stretched before them, vast and unforgiving, but he also knew that faith, forged in the crucible of shared purpose, could move mountains. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Harrison looked out at his squadron. He knew the world was watching, waiting for them to fail, but he also knew, with a certainty that resonated deep in his bones, that they would not. They would fly, they would fight, and they would prove everyone wrong. If you're captivated by untold stories of courage and defiance, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more historical narratives that challenge the conventional wisdom. Colonel Harrison implemented a training regimen that pushed his pilots to their absolute limits. Early morning briefings, endless hours in the cockpit practicing formations, dogfights, and simulated escort missions. He demanded perfection, not out of cruelty but out of a profound understanding of the stakes. Every mistake in training was a life lost in combat. The integrated nature of the squadron was a constant source of friction. Fistfights broke out in the mess hall. Racial slurs were muttered under breath. Some white pilots openly questioned Harrison's authority, while some black pilots, weary of being under the microscope, resented the added pressure of proving themselves to their white counterparts. Harrison, however, remained unyielding. He held individual meetings, not to scold, but to listen. He spoke of shared purpose, of the enemy that didn't care about the color of their skin, only the insignia on their wings. He reminded them that their survival depended on each other, regardless of background. One evening, he found Corporal Williams, eagle-eye slumped against a P-51, his face a mask of frustration. Williams had just been chewed out by a white flight leader for a minor tactical error, an error that felt magnified by the racial tension. "They don't want us here, Colonel," Williams muttered, not looking up. "They're just waiting for us to mess up." Harrison knelt beside him, his voice soft but firm. "Marcus, the wilderness is full of voices that tell you to give up, that you're not good enough, but you have to choose which voices you listen to. Your talent is undeniable, your courage is unquestionable. Don't let the noise of prejudice drown out the roar of your own engine." He placed a hand on Williams's shoulder. Moses led his people through 40 years of doubt and hardship. He faced rebellion from within, and enemies from without, but he never lost sight of the promise. "We are on our own journey, Marcus, and every single one of us is essential to reaching our promised land, bringing our boys home." Williams looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Yes, sir." Lieutenant Chen, with her sharp intellect, became Harrison's eyes and ears on the ground. She meticulously analyzed enemy flight patterns, identified weaknesses in Luftwaffe tactics, and provided crucial intelligence that often meant the difference between life and death. She faced her own battles, often having to assert her authority in a male-dominated environment, but her competence quickly earned her respect. "Colonel," she reported one morning, her finger tracing a line on a map, "Major Volker's squadron, the Black Knights, have been particularly active in the Munich sector. They're aggressive, highly skilled, and they target our bomber formations with ruthless efficiency." He's known for his hit-and-run tactics, exploiting any gaps in escort. Major Thomas Volker, the name was already legendary, a phantom of the skies, a predator. Harrison knew that to succeed, they would have to outthink, outfly, and outfight Volker. Their first few missions were harrowing. They faced flak so thick it felt like flying through a hailstorm of steel. They encountered Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. The squadron, still finding its rhythm, made mistakes, but Harrison, leading from the front, always managed to rally them, to adapt, to push through. He instilled a new doctrine, close escort. Unlike other fighter groups that would often chase enemy fighters away from the bombers, Harrison demanded his pilots stay glued to the bombers, forming an impenetrable shield. It was a risky strategy, putting his fighters in the direct line of fire, but it was effective. The bombers, often left vulnerable by overzealous escorts, began to notice the difference. One mission, deep over Austria, saw them ambushed by a squadron of foe. The sky erupted into a chaotic ballet of tracers and explosions. A B-17, its engine smoking, began to fall behind. Corporal Williams, despite his youth, broke formation to cover it, drawing 2 enemy fighters onto himself. Harrison, seeing the move, barked orders over the radio, redirecting Ghost and another pilot to support Williams. Together they drove off the attackers, saving both the B-17. Back on the ground, Harrison didn't reprimand Williams for breaking formation. Instead, he commended his courage, and then privately explained the importance of maintaining discipline within the larger strategy. Williams, chastened but also validated, understood he was learning to channel his fire. Slowly, painstakingly, the squadron began to gel. The shared terror of combat, the relief of safe return, the camaraderie forged in the crucible of the skies, these began to erode the walls of prejudice. A white pilot from Georgia found himself relying on a black wingman from Harlem. A Hispanic pilot shared a laugh with a Jewish pilot from New York. They were still different, but they were also brothers in arms. Harrison watched them, a quiet satisfaction growing within him. He saw the transformation, the slow but steady journey from a collection of disparate individuals to a cohesive unit. It was like watching the Israelites, grumbling and doubting, but still moving forward, guided by a higher purpose. The wilderness was still vast, but they were learning to navigate it, together. If this chapter resonated with you, showing how unity can be forged in the fires of adversity, please like this video to support our work. The missions piled up, 50, 100, each one a testament to their growing skill and Harrison's unwavering leadership. The 332nd became known as the Red Tails, for the distinctive crimson paint on their aircraft's empennage, a defiant splash of color against the gray skies of war. Bomber crews began to specifically request the Red Tails for their escort, a silent acknowledgement of their unparalleled effectiveness. The impossible was becoming routine, but the war was far from over, and Major Thomas Volker, the German ace, remained a constant, deadly threat. His Black Knights were a phantom menace, striking with surgical precision, then vanishing. Harrison knew a direct confrontation was inevitable, a reckoning that would define their legacy. The 50th mission was a deep penetration escort to Berlin, a target bristling with anti-aircraft guns and swarming with Luftwaffe fighters. The weather was atrocious, thick clouds obscuring visibility, making formation flying a night. Harrison felt the familiar knot of tension in his stomach, a premonition of the storm to come. He thought of the psalm, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." He had to be with his men, every step of the way. As they approached the target, the flak barrage was unlike anything they had ever seen. Black bursts blossomed around the bombers, shaking the P-51s like toys. Then out of the swirling clouds, they came Volker's Black Knights, a squadron of Foch 190s, their engines screaming, their guns spitting fire. "Volker's here." Ghost's voice crackled over the radio, urgent. Multiple bogies, 11 o'clock high. Harrison's P-51 Spirit of Tuskegee banked sharply. Red Tails, maintain close escort, do not break formation, engage only when necessary to protect the bombers. The sky became a maelstrom, tracer rounds crisscrossed, engines roared, and the metallic shriek of stressed airframes filled the air. Volker, in his distinctive FD-190 with a black raven painted on its fuselage, was a blur of lethal efficiency, weaving through the formations, looking for a weakness. He was a master of the hit and run, exploiting any gap, any moment of hesitation. Corporal Williams, Eagle Eye, found himself in a desperate dogfight with a skilled German pilot. His P-51 danced through the flak, his guns chattering, but the enemy was tenacious. He saw a bomber take a direct hit, its wing tearing away, sending it spiraling towards the earth. The sight fueled his rage, but Harrison's voice, calm and steady, cut through the chaos. Eagle Eye, stay focused, protect your six, don't chase the kill, protect the bomber. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Chen, back at base, was a whirlwind of activity. Her radio crackled with frantic reports, her fingers flying across the communication panel. She was relaying critical intelligence, tracking enemy movements, and guiding Harrison through the labyrinthine air battle. Colonel Volker's main attack is coming from the north. They're trying to split the formation. Harrison immediately adjusted his strategy. Ghost, take your flight to the north. Williams, stay with the lead bomber. We're not letting them through. Volker, observing the disciplined defense, felt a surge of frustration. He had expected chaos, disarray, especially from an experimental squadron, but these pilots, these red tails, they were like a wall of steel, unyielding, disciplined. He saw Harrison's P-51, leading the charge, a beacon of defiance. This lightning Harrison, Volker muttered to his wingman, he flies like a demon, and his men, they are not what we were told. In a daring maneuver, Volker broke through a momentary gap, targeting a beat. Harrison saw it, a flash of black against the gray sky. He pushed his P-51 to its limits, diving, guns blazing. Volkers, surprised by the sudden aggressive counter, was forced to break off his attack. The two aces locked eyes for a fleeting moment, a silent challenge passing between them. The battle raged for what felt like an eternity. Planes exploded, parachutes blossomed in the distance, but the red tails held their ground. They fought with a ferocity born of purpose, a unity forged in fire. They were not just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for their right to be there, for the respect they had earned. Finally, after what seemed like an age, Volker's squadron, having suffered heavy losses and unable to break the Red Tails' defense, disengaged. The sky, though still scarred by smoke trails, began to clear. The bombers, battered but intact, continued their journey home. Back at base, the pilots stumbled out of their cockpits, exhausted, adrenaline drained, but alive. They had faced the best the Luftwaffe had to offer, and they had won. Not a single bomber had been lost, not a single red-tail pilot had been lost. Harrison walked among them, his face grim, but his eyes shining with pride. He saw Williams, his uniform streaked with sweat and oil, but his eyes alight with a newfound confidence. He saw Ghost, quietly checking on his men. He saw the white pilots and black pilots, slapping each other on the back, sharing cigarettes, their differences momentarily forgotten in the shared triumph. They had walked through the valley of death, and they had emerged together. The promised land of acceptance was still distant, but with every mission, they were taking another step closer. What are your thoughts on Colonel Harrison's leadership and the challenges faced by the Red Tails? Leave your comments below and let us know what inspired you most in this chapter. The Berlin mission was a turning point. Word of the Red Tails' extraordinary performance spread like wildfire through the Allied forces. Bomber crews, once skeptical, now openly praised their escort. The 32nd Fighter Group, the experiment, was proving to be the most effective fighter escort unit in the European theater. Mission after mission, the pattern held. They flew through flak, engaged superior numbers of enemy fighters, and always brought their bombers home. The number of missions climbed, one to one, each one a testament to Harrison's doctrine of close escort, to the rigorous training, and to the unwavering courage of his integrated squadron. Colonel Harrison, though outwardly stoic, carried the weight of every mission, every life. He continued to draw strength from his faith, from the story of Moses, who despite the trials and tribulations, never abandoned his people. He knew that their journey was not just about winning a war, but about proving a fundamental truth, that character, skill and courage knew no color. Corporal Williams, now a seasoned veteran, had shed his youthful impetuousness. He flew with a calm precision, his eagle eye spotting enemy fighters before anyone else, his guns finding their mark with deadly accuracy. He had become one of the squadron's most reliable pilots, a testament to Harrison's mentorship. Lieutenant Chen's intelligence reports became indispensable. Her analysis of Volker's tactics allowed Harrison to anticipate the German ace's moves, often turning the tables on the formidable Black Knights. She was no longer just a radio operator, she was a strategic partner, her insights saving countless lives. Major Volker, the antagonist, found himself increasingly frustrated. His Black Knights, once the terror of the skies, were now regularly outmaneuvered and outfought by the Red Tails. He had underestimated the resolve of his diverse squadron. He had seen the experiment as a weakness. It had become their greatest strength. They are like a pack of wolves, Volker conceded to his staff, a rare admission of respect, disciplined, relentless, and they never abandoned their prey. This Harrison, he has forged something truly remarkable. The 2000th mission loomed, a final symbolic hurdle. It was another deep penetration escort, this time to a synthetic oil plant in Czechoslovakia. The stakes were as high as ever. The entire squadron felt the pressure, the weight of their incredible record: 99 missions, 0 bombers lost, 0 red-tail pilots lost. Could they maintain it? Could they complete the impossible? The mission was a brutal affair. The Luftwaffe, desperate in the waning days of the war, threw everything they had at the bomber stream. The sky was filled with the roar of engines, the flash of gunfire, the desperate cries over the radio. Harrison, leading from the front, was everywhere, directing, fighting, inspiring. Ghost was a steady presence on his wing, a silent guardian. Williams, now a captain, led his own flight, his P-51 a blur of red and silver, weaving through the chaos. In the midst of the battle, Harrison found himself face to face with Volker once more. It was a brief, intense dogfight, a clash of titans. Harrison's Spirit of Tuskegee and Volker's Black Raven danced in a deadly ballet, each pilot pushing his machine to its absolute limit. Neither gained a decisive advantage, but Harrison's relentless pressure forced Volker to break off, his mission to disrupt the bombers thwarted once again. As the last bomber turned for home, its payload delivered, the red tails formed up, their numbers intact. The sky, though still hazy with the smoke of battle, was theirs. They had done it. 200 combat missions, 200 times they had faced the enemy, the flak, the prejudice, the doubt, and 200 times they had brought every single one of their charges home. Back on the ground, the celebration was subdued, a quiet understanding of the magnitude of their achievement. There were no grand speeches, just weary smiles, firm handshakes, and the shared knowledge of a job impeccably done. Colonel James Lightning Harrison stood before his squadron, his face etched with fatigue, but his eyes shining with a profound sense of accomplishment. He looked at the faces before him, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, no longer an experiment, but a family, forged in fire, united by purpose. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice hoarse, "and Lieutenant Chen, 200 missions, 0 pilots lost, 0 bombers lost, under our escort. You have not only won battles, you have changed minds. You have not only fought for your country, you have fought for your right to be seen, to be respected, to be equal." He paused, a lump forming in his throat. "You have walked through the wilderness, faced every trial, and you have reached our promised land. You have proven that courage knows no color, and that unity is our greatest strength. The world will remember what you did here." The cheers that erupted were not just for the victory, but for the vindication. They had faced down prejudice, defied expectations, and rewritten history, one mission at a time. Colonel Harrison, the man they said would fail, had led them to an impossible triumph. Their legacy would echo through the annals of military history, a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of perseverance. The Red Tails, the integrated squadron, had not only brought all their pilots home alive, they had brought home a new understanding of what was possible. Don't miss out on more inspiring stories of courage and triumph. Hit the notification bell, so you're always the first to know when a new episode drops.